Hey everyone, welcome to the Underswell. I'm Derek Sabori. Thanks for being here. All right, now we're live with our countdown. Steve Tully, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Derek. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, I'm excited. Excited to have a really great conversation with you just because your resume is so stellar. I know you've got a great reputation for what you do. People kind of are always speaking highly of you. You were referred to me to be on this show. So I'm ready to dive in, get some advice, and kind of walk through all the cool things that you've done in your career. You ready to tackle it all?
Yeah, I'm happy to help. But first of all, this is a varsity podcast. You sent me all these notes to prepare for. I thought we were just going to be chatting for a while.
That's all we're doing. I just can't help but being, I like being prepared and making sure I don't want to throw any curveballs to anybody, you know?
I'm taking my driver's license test or something here. Jeez.
These are your study notes for the last week, huh?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being here. It's Friday. You ready for the weekend? You got any big plans for the weekend, Steve?
I'm ready for the weekend. It's my wife's birthday. It's a big one. I won't say the number publicly.
Okay.
But we have a big family dinner planned for tonight and some celebration. So yeah, it's going to be fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm here today with Steve Tully, a consumer products-focused professional coach and business consultant. Like I said, a highly regarded and accomplished surf industry executive, a board member, a mentor, a dad, obviously a husband. Any other titles we should add in there, Steve, for you?
Well, I'm not a convicted felon, so I guess you can't say that. No, I think
that's the other podcast that I do.
Yeah, let's leave it at that.
But Steve, you bring a strong consumer product background and extensive experience in sales, marketing, and operations across wholesale, traditional retail, and DTC channels, really to any clients that you work with. You've held president-level leadership roles at renowned industry-leading action sports companies, including Quiksilver and Roxy, Vix Luxury, Brazilian Swimwear, Neff Headwear. You're known for driving performance and achieving exceptional results. Do you ever just look back at your resume and just sort of think, dang, all right, that's not too bad?
Well, that's nice of you to say. Thanks. The answer is I don't. Each of those different brands or different stations in my life. And, I was really fortunate to have a 30-some year career in that whole action sports world. There's an old saying, there's high tide and low tide. Most of it was high tide, some low tide. And, you have to kind of play through those periods as well. But I was really fortunate to be primarily part of that Quiksilver run there for all those many years. Bob McKnight invited myself and others along for what turned out to be a magic carpet ride for many, many years. So I look back on those years with fondness. I was there approximately 25 years, and I'd say it was 23 great years and 2 difficult years. But I guess I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but mostly that I was really fortunate to be surrounded by some really great, talented people that I got to ride along with. So.
Yeah, well, I want to unpack that all and just kind of talk about, sort of the journey there, how you got there, what it was like. Maybe talk about some of the lessons that you learned, maybe from some of those hard times. So we've got a lot to talk about. Because you're in the business of guiding career builders, and that's what this show is really here for. But, I do like to, before we dive in and talk about all that, besides work, what keeps you busy personally these days? What do you like doing on your free time?
Well, I play a lot of golf. I do. A couple of days a week I do that. We have a small runabout boat that we spend a lot of time on the water, primarily in the harbor.
Nice.
I've got grandkids that live nearby, so those occupy a lot of my time. And I'm really happy. I volunteer for a few different organizations, and I spend some time there as well. Most notably San Diego Sports Institute, where I've been a mentor there for the last 13 years or so, off and on. And I was honored a few years ago to be invited to be on the board of governors of the Lacuna College of Art and Design. And that's led by a really brilliant, bright CEO down there, Steve Britton. There's a lot of exciting things going on at LCAD, and I'm honored to be a part of that as well. So, I have a boutique consultancy, and we can get into that. I want to emphasize boutique because I'm mostly retired, but I do work 2 or 3 mornings a week with my clients. Primarily, my work is in the mornings. What I wanted to do when I retired was have some autonomy of my time. And that's what semi-retirement brings me. But I wanted to retire to something, not just from something. And I learned that from some people in my life that I've observed. So, yeah.
I'm going to throw kind of a curveball question at you, and it's related to retirement. Was there what point in your career did you start thinking about retirement? Or I guess early on, did you start planning for it and know that it was coming? And, were you intentional about it, or did it creep up on you?
Really good question, Derek, because I never really had a stop date. I didn't really have one in mind. I
Mm-hmm.
like to work, but I was looking for a little more autonomy. And the last role I had was running, believe it or not, a pharmaceutical grade supplements business, small business, working for a gifted woman, Haley Pomeroy. She wrote a book called The Fast Metabolism Diet.
Okay.
It's a long story on how I migrated into that role, but I did. I woke up one morning and decided that I no longer wanted to work full time. It was that sudden, literally
Ah,
that sudden. So I did a transition. I worked out with Haley Pomeroy, who I was working for at the time. We did a workout, and it was great. It was all smooth and calm, and I had been mentoring her son to take the business over. Yeah, so it just kind of hit me one day. I was looking for a little more autonomy in my schedule, and I didn't have the consulting in mind at the time. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just didn't know I just sort of lacked the energy to give it the full-time commitment that it deserved.
So then today in your boutique consulting company that you've got, you said, I know that you're empowering mid to senior level managers through their pivotal career transitions. You're helping leaders improve their company's performance and success in the consumer space. You're coaching CEOs. Give us a little insight into what a day in the life looks like. On those days that you are working, what's your coaching and what's your work look like?
Well, when I did retire, I was helping friends. There was the whole transition of the board writers thing was going on at the time a couple of years ago, and it was my daughter and my financial planner said to me, "You should formalize this. You should just you should do this. Just take that leap." Didn't really want to start a business or start a consultancy, but I had a few friends, former employees, coworkers that I knew were really struggling. So I crafted a little bit of a format that I do. I help people that are thinking about a job career change, that are in transition, or that have just landed in a new role. I teach a book called The First 90 Days, which a brilliant guy from Harvard wrote, and it's had several editions. It's a very common book. And so, there were a lot of things happening in that board writers world before that whole ABG transition, and I knew there was going to be a lot of fallout. So my strategy was to convince my friends/clients to play offense with their career, to get ready for a transition. Don't wait for it to happen to you. Get ready. And there are things that I teach, and a lot of it's common sense on how to get yourself prepared for the next stop. It's a little different when you're working, obviously, than when you're in transition. But then when you land, there are key things that you have to know and understand. You have to build a 90-day plan. You have to know who's in your corner, who may not be in your corner. You have to build some milestones with your new employer. So that's kind of where I started. And then a couple of my clients transitioned into leadership roles with companies in the industry, and I stayed on. They asked me to stay on, and I coached them into their transition into the new roles. And then I have a couple of smaller clients, if you will, smaller businesses where I have a consistent relationship where it's an every other week meeting kind of thing. And I coach their founders, and I sort of coach them up. I'm a sounding board. I often say I'm not sure I know what to do in every situation. I usually know what not to do. And don't sign anything unless we talk. And any kind of pivotal milestone decisions, I like to be a part of that. And then I step away. I'm not in it day to day. I think I add value in the fact that I'm not there day to day. And I really, really enjoy that. I really enjoy it.
For people that come to you for coaching, or in general, I guess if you're pitching yourself, what do you think that leaders need the most? Is it just sort of having that soundboard, just somebody else too, or is there oftentimes, or even if you're in a leadership role, people are like, they can acknowledge that, hey, I don't have all the answers, so I need to go to somebody who's had the experience here.
Yeah, sure. It varies, of course. It depends on whether they're in a leadership role or whether they're transitioning from a leadership role. And it depends on who they're working for. I mean, if they're working for private equity, that's a different conversation. I've had experience working for private equity when I when Sean Neff and I ran Neff, Sean was the CEO, I was the president, we were owned by private equity, so that was a wholly different experience. If you're in transition, the main thing I try to tell people is you have to know what you want to do. People can't help you unless you know what you want to do. And some people come out and they're confused. You'd be surprised. So that old, you've heard the elevator pitch. We work on that first and foremost.
Okay.
You have to know people want to help, but they can't unless you know what you want to do. And then we look at LinkedIn and we look at resume and we look at interviewing and those kinds of things. So, and you bring up a good point. They want a sounding board of someone they can talk to. We signed mutual confidentiality club. I'm trying to say, yeah. And so, my client list is confidential, and what we talk about is confidential, and they have to have that confidence in me there. So,
well, Steve, while our paths, they may have crossed during my time working in the action sports industry. I don't remember for sure, but it wasn't until Vipe Desai, the executive director at the Surf Industry Members Association, SEMA, recommended you as a guest for the show. He said you were a must-have. You've really built a stellar reputation. So when I look at the testimonials on your website, I think I know the answer to this, but how important has your reputation been to your career?
Well, I'd like to think it's very important. I was told once what remains in the end is your character. So, look, people keep coming back. 100% of what business I have is referrals. I do no marketing. I'm not really trying to grow the business. So most of what I do is I try to be helpful to people. But let me get back to Vipe. There's a guy, I love that guy. And he could be doing a lot of other things, but he's wholly dedicated to this action sports, not just surf, but action sports world. And boy, I just love hanging around him and having conversations. And again, I think maybe if I add any value at all, it's that I'm not in it day to day, but I pride myself on sort of staying in touch of everything, kind of things that are going on in the industry and in the marketplace. And occasionally he'll straighten my tie, and occasionally, hopefully, I straighten his tie a little bit. But I'm a huge fan.
Do you have sort of a quick take on your perspective of that industry? You feel bullish on it? You feel, it's in transition, or is it?
Clearly, it's in transition.
Yeah.
Clearly, businesses are going to be smaller than they once were, and I'm not sure that's a bad thing. And then just be mindful what the consumer sees, what the kid sees in the brands, and what's going on in the background are totally different things. So. Look, Quiksilver and Billabong and Roxy, they're still powerful brands. And what the new owners do with them, I guess it remains to be seen. People say, well, do you think the surf shops will stop buying them? I said, I know they will if it stops selling. But it's difficult for smaller brands to step in and occupy that much space and do that much business. So the long story short is still, obviously an industry in transition. Businesses will be smaller than they once were, but I think it still has a bright future. I really do.
Yeah, I like that. I'm hopeful too. Well, let's talk about that, because I joked earlier about your resume being so impressive, and it really is. But I think it can be misleading to look at resumes and bios like yours and really forget that there's a story behind it all, and often a lot of struggles and maybe lessons learned. So maybe let's do a little reminiscing. I want to talk about how you got here, maybe that first, executive vice president role at Quiksilver Women's, because you had a degree from Cal State Fullerton in communications and PR. So I want to know, how did you get into the surf industry, and how did leadership come calling for you? At what point did it? Maybe walk us through the story of how you got here, how you built it, Steve.
All right, but I'm going to give you the short story because you don't want to lose all your listeners.
We're here for it.
Yeah. I've always been around sports. I've always been around the ocean. Got out of college, took a job with a small surf company called Offshore Sportswear.
Yeah.
Did the typical work in the mailroom, work in the production office, work in accounting, did all that stuff. Got a sales territory.
Where was their headquarters at?
Over in Santa Ana.
Okay.
Yeah, John Bernard's owned the company. John had a background with Hang 10, and he was really one of the pioneers in our industry, to be honest. Yeah. John is. Worked there, worked my way up to sales manager, regional sales manager, national sales manager. And then Ocean Pacific came calling. And I went to work for Ocean Pacific. I moved to the San Francisco area because they were selling an account called Mervyn's. They're not around anymore. I think Kohl's, that's what Mervyn's was.
Yes. Okay.
And Ocean Pacific was doing $1 bazillion with them, and there were like 5 layers of management on the account, and I was the guy that carried the bags out and showed the samples. So I did that. I did that for a couple of years, and then a friend of mine, Seth Ellison, who I knew from offshore, got the job as the merchandise manager at Quiksilver.
Okay. Yeah.
He had just gone public, and I called him to congratulate him, and he said, hey, they're looking for a sales manager. They're looking for somebody that's got some department store experience and surf shop experience, which I had. You should call them. I did. I called John Warner and Bob McKnight. I interviewed, and they hired me as the national sales manager on April 15th, 1988. I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had recently gone public. And so I was there. We went from 30 to $90 million in less than 3 years.
Jeez.
And then the first Gulf War hit in 1992, and we receded back to $60 million, and myself and others were laid off, and it was a really challenging time in
Oh,
1992. Yeah, it's a long time ago.
yeah.
So I had a few jobs after that. I worked San Luis Obispo, Hind Fitness Athletic Apparel. Then I went to work for Varney Sunglasses.
Yeah. Okay.
And 4 years passed, and Bob McKnight called me and said, hey, I'd like to get you back in the business. We just bought this brand called Raisins, women's swimwear. I'd like you to come in and run that. I said, I don't know anything about the women's swimwear business.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, but I figured you didn't know anything about the sunglass business, and you're doing that. I just want to get you back in the company, and you'll figure it out. And there's good people there. And so I did. I came back in, and I worked with Raisins, and there were great people there, and I learned the business, and eventually took on more and more responsibility in the women's end of the business, which morphed into being asked to be the president of a Roxy brand, where I was the president for 6 years. And Derek, there's no other way to say it. We caught lightning in a bottle. It was a great run. We had gifted women in sales and in design and in marketing. And, Randy Hild. Randy was really sort of more of the face of the brand, if you will. And I was sort of in the back room, the business part of the brand. And we had a really good run. It was a lot of fun. So I think fondly on those days, for sure. And then from there, they asked me to run the Quiksilver brand. I did that for a few years. Did some emerging business, ran the Tony Hawk business, and did some other. Anyway, so I was at Quiksilver from 96 to 2013. And then things were difficult. There was a management change, and I won't get into all the mess, but it was. And I left. I left on good terms. They took great care of me. I had a good run there. And from there, I went down to San Diego, and I ran Vix Swimwear, which is a premium Brazilian swimwear brand. I was there for a year or so. So I helped her clean the business up a little. We moved the office, we moved the computer, we went to a 3PL, we did all that backroom stuff, but candidly, I kind of ran out of things to do. And I left there, and I wound up at Neff Headwear, and I was there for 3 years. And we sold that. PE owned it, so we ran it for 3 years. They called Sean and I up and said, hey, we're done. We want to do something else. Can you guys sell the business? And we did. We sold it to Manage. And from there, I did a little consulting, and then I ran the supplements business, and then I retired. So,
Well, I feel like that is the hyper shortened version. I'm sure that there's so much in there to unpack. How did you, just going with the Neff, period, how did you connect with Sean? How did you know him?
well, I didn't. I knew someone at the Marlin Equity, which had just bought a controlling interest in the business, and they were looking to put together an advisory board, and they called me, and I said I'd be happy to be a part of it. They'd hired a president, and it didn't work out, and they called me and said, could you come in on an interim basis while we find somebody? I said, well, you're in Camarillo, and I'm in Newport Beach. This is not going to work. But I lived in a hotel for 3 nights a week for a while, and Sean and I just got along. He's gifted and a great guy, and I was behind the scenes business guy, and he was the face of the brand. And, we had a little bit of a speed bump. The business kind of arced and leveled out. The PE guys probably shouldn't have. It was the wrong business for them to own. They were used to doing defunct software lines. I don't know why but Sean talked them into buying it. But they called us up. They were nice guys. They said, hey, look, we don't want to be in this business. Can you sell it? And we sold it to Mad Engine. And then I moved on from there. So,
Huh.
yeah.
I can't help but think, as you're going through that story, so many times, whether it was Bob calling you back and saying, hey, you're the right person for this job, somebody saying, hey, Seth saying, you would be good for this job. I mean, in our careers, it seems like so often they come from somebody recognizing the work or a connection of ours recognizing us. What do you think it was about you, if you look back, that people recognized that they wanted to call you back or they wanted to say, hey, we need you in this position? What do you think some of your strengths were that really created that?
Well, I think they figured I wouldn't screw it up. Uh,
Competence, and then?
yeah,
Or
maybe
what?
it was that. I mean, I don't know how to answer that, Derek. I think I've treated people well, and I've tried to, stay on top of my craft,
Yeah.
and I've tried to learn and progress. I mean, Bob is just a diehard Trojan for sure. Imagine me walking into his office in 1999 and saying, I want to do the executive program in management at UCLA.
Did you have
Imagine
to
that
whisper? Did you have to
conversation.
whisper that?
Yeah, yeah. And I had to duck. But they actually didn't have a similar program at SC at the time, and he supported me through that year-long program. Anyway, so I did the executive program in management in '99. The reason I wanted to do it is I'd been a sales manager, and I really wanted to transition into operational executive management. I was too far along in my career to go back for an MBA. Was not a good candidate at 40 years old, and I was too busy. I was a vice president. I had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So this program was a great transitional program. It was a significant commitment. It was every Thursday, essentially for a year, from 1 in the afternoon till 9 at night, with a lot of reading and prep. And it was just well-rounded in all areas of management. And for example, there were a lot of aerospace people in the program because they're very technically smart, but not necessarily well-rounded in terms of business. So I did that as part of my transition into general management. And there was some really specific, applicable things I learned there that helped me transition as the businesses grew at Quick, because they did grow, and they grew rapidly, within a 5 or 6 year period, especially at Roxy.
Yeah.
So
Are there biggest takeaways from that growth that you had? You mentioned lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And what a fantastic time it was. I'm sure there are takeaways and memories from both sides from that rapid growth and the good times. But then you mentioned some bad times you've alluded to. But I guess what were the big lessons learned from each of those and memorable highlights maybe?
Well, it's always going to be surround yourself with the best people you can find to let them do their work. And to the extent you can, stay out of the way. You can't always do that. And then be humble. It's a challenging. I mean, we were very competitive, and we had a lot of great competitors. But be humble. I mean, and we tried to do that as well. We're in the fashion surf business, and sometimes consumers are fickle. So if your line's not the greatest one of the year and greatest one in the marketplace that year, you can get some speed bumps, and that's when you have to rely on your relationships, and people have to believe in the brand. Every brand might have a little bit of a bump now and then, but we believe you guys are going to be back and you're going to do well. So, but the outside influences, Great Recessions, wars, those things, God, September 11th, you can't manage your way around those things. They're just terrible, tragic, lifetime events that you have to, unfortunately, at times, there's a business reaction to that, so.
Yeah. And you just have to manage through them then. You can't manage around them. Is that what you're saying?
As best you can manage through them.
Yeah. That first leadership role that you had when you were asked to kind of step into a leadership role, can you go back to that and tell me, sort of, I guess, where was your head at, especially as you coach leaders now? I mean, I know there can be a lot of imposter syndrome sometimes, or people going like, why me?
Sure.
What was your feeling, and how did you evolve into a true leader that, continued to lead?
Well, I tried to, to observe those around me that were in positions of leadership, and some of the ways that they led and things that I admired. I guess maybe some of it was innate. I was a captain of the high school basketball team. I mean, I don't know what I was. I mean, I think I probably was. People saw me as a leader, so some of that was innate.
Yeah.
I like to be in charge, but it's weird. I like to be asked to be in charge. So I never walked into anybody's office and said, I want to be the president.
Right, right.
I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just the truth. That's just how I'm built, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob is the most competitive person on the planet. Save maybe Massimo might be a little more competitive, you know. So there was enough competitive drive in the building. They didn't need, I mean, the rest of us wanted to win and we were competitive. So I suppose maybe others saw something in me that it was time. It's time to ask you to take over this position of leadership. And it worked out for me.
Yeah. I like that idea though that, that you always kind of felt like you'd like to be in charge, but I think recognizing how we operate, I think is a really important thing to do. And I guess it's just that, as people are building their careers, as they're younger in the space, not everybody gets to be a leader or be in a leadership role, and it may or may not be for everybody. But I'm always really fascinated by those that end up in those roles and continue going and continue to be sort of sought out for and recognized in those roles. So you've obviously done something right to to be that person.
Yeah, but I didn't mind being the second in command for a while. I never minded that, and maybe I always thought that there would be some sort of a natural progression of that. I mean, I've mentioned Bob a few times. Bob's been obviously a huge influence in my life, and we're still very close, and I see him all the time. But I used to have part of my relationship with him was just tell me what you need me to do. And there would be some times he would need me to take on a task that may have been outside of my realm of responsibility. And so I always tried to surround myself with folks that say to me, tell me what you need me to do. And I was really lucky. I had some really talented women and men that are still to this day we're close to. And, we rode a magic carpet ride for a while. We did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, let's take a very quick break. When I come back from this little break, I want to ask you sort of what's been underneath the surface for you this whole time. I really believe that for each of us, there's something sort of under the hood that drives us and keeps us doing what we're doing. So I want to find out what yours is. I call it the Underswell.
Sure.
And then I want to get some advice from you for early journey career builders. So hang tight. I'll come right back and I want to ask you those questions. Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying the episode. I'm always so inspired and motivated by these career stories, and I hope you are too. And I wonder, are you looking to be featured on the show? Each week, I chat with an invited guest who is an expert in their space or who has compiled a stellar resume. If you fit that description and are interested in being a guest, just hit me up at Derek Sabori on LinkedIn. And here's something else to consider. This show platform is for hire. I build professional and personal podcast profiles for people who are looking to stand out in a crowded marketplace. You've heard my guests say it's your personality, the way you connect with people, and your ability to relate and communicate that will help land that next job, client, or customer. So let's show off your personality, not just your resume, and let's do it on a podcast. Head over to theunderswell.com to learn more. And now back to the show. Steve, I call this show The Underswell because, like I said, I really believe that underneath any success, there's something that drives us all. It's like the swell that generates the surf that we get to ride. It's different for all of us, but what would you say your underswell is? What keeps you going?
Well, Derek, I hope you're prepared for this because I have situational underswell. And what I mean by that is that the underswell for me was different when I was earlier in my career, right? I had different ambitions. I had a family. I wanted to buy a home. I liked nice things. I wanted to travel. I wanted to be able to educate my children.
Yeah.
So that underswell was put myself in a position where I could be successful, work hard and be successful. And that was really my driving force. I got out of bed every day and went to work and did the best I could and tried to progress through career stages and different various levels of ascending responsibility, etc.
Yeah.
As I matured and had those roles of leadership, it was really more the underswell for me was how can I surround myself with the best people? How can we keep this together and achieve the goals of the corporation or the business or whatever it was at the time? And that's what I got out of bed every day and worried about, right? It was the team. People are always the biggest challenge in business. You've heard that before. And the brand, the positioning, the economy, the goals, and then we were a public company at Quiksilver, which is a whole nother it's a whole nother podcast, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So that was my underswell, but in semi-retirement, it's different. I really want to help people. I charge a little bit of money because you have to charge. There has to be some pain point. Candidly, I've had some candidates that were struggling. I don't charge them anything. But my underswell is how can I give something back and help people at this stage of my career? And it sounds corny, but that's what I get the most kick out of is seeing either somebody make a transition into another role, or someone that's in transition land in another role, or when they've landed, help them through the period of 6 months. That's really what I get the best and greatest joy of. That's kind of my underswell now. Let me give you one example if I can.
Please.
There's an executive in the marketplace now who's very successful, and we worked together when we were at Quiksilver many years ago. And he had a leadership role with one of the brands in the board riders world.
Okay.
And I knew that was going to get sold. They were going to sell it, and he was helping them sell it. And I said, have they asked you to stay? He said, well, what do you mean? I said, no, on the other side of the transition, have they asked you to stay?
Yeah.
And he said, well, no. And I said, well, you're going to show up Monday morning, there's going to be a box outside your door.
Yeah.
Let's play offense. Come on, let's play offense together. Let's figure this out. And he's now running a major brand in that world because I may have woken him up a little bit and said, this is about you and your career and how do we play offense. Defense is when you show up and the box is there and you're looking for a job. Offense is when you pull everything together, you pull your network together, you have your own personal board of directors, which I recommend all of my clients to have, and you move forward with what's best for you and your career. And that brings me great joy to be able to do that. And then the phone rings and it's like, hey, my buddy said to call you. My other friend said to call you, or we need to talk, or so that's how that works.
I love how you've painted this picture of your underswell progressing, and I think it's really honest, and I think it's great because in those early days of your career, and I wanted to ask, when you are just focused on building a career, finding that success, kind of finding your hooks into something where you're getting paid well, things are going, you want to buy it, you want to be able to buy the house, support your family, etc. Could you have been doing anything at that point? Or, so I look back and I'm like, man, I was lucky to be able to do that in such a great industry. But I often wonder if I had to, could I have done it in any industry? Or were you so passionate about climbing the ladder, if you will, because you're in a great industry with that lightning in the bottle kind of moment?
Yeah, I never gave any thought to being in any other industry at that point in time.
Yeah.
I love the ocean. I love the whole action sports world. And, I'm waiting for you to ask me if I surf. and here's my answer. It's like asking somebody that works for the Lakers if they play basketball. It's like, I do a little bit, but I'm not paddling out with Strider. I mean, there's no chance, right?
Right.
So, but that doesn't mean I don't love the sport.
I appreciate it.
In 1982, I was standing on the shore of Pipeline watching Mark Richards win the Pipe Masters. I mean, that's how far back and how much love I have for that. I mean, when Kelly takes off on that way, he makes it look so easy, right?
Still to this day.
Hard, but he makes it look so easy. And the basketball analogy is when Michael Jordan used to take off from the free throw line, everybody thought they could do that. I mean, like 3 people on the planet could do that. So yeah, I mean, so I've always, I'm a Pisces, so I'm always going to be around the water.
Same. Yeah. I love that. I think that's great. You're at this point now where you just really like serving and helping people. You've come to this point, you're a mentor at the San Diego Sports Institute. How did you get involved there? And talk to me about the importance and benefits of mentoring.
Yeah, so when I first left Quiksilver, I'd heard my friend Dave Nash was on the board down there, and he said, you should call them. You could help out. And think of it, this is what they do. Think of it like a mini Shark Tank, right? So Bill Walton, may rest in peace, was such an incredibly giving person. And he decided to help entrepreneurs, San Diego-based entrepreneurs, although it's not exclusively San Diego, and people that wanted to start small sports-related companies. He decided to say, let's get some business mentors to help these folks with good ideas, and we'll coach them up to a point where they can make a pitch to an investor. That's kind of what the Shark Tank angle is. And when it first started, when you went through the program, you would literally go to Bill's house and he would have all his high net worth individual friends come in, and you had 5 minutes to pitch them.
Oh,
And
that's
so we
cool.
coached you on the 5 minutes.
Nice.
And I've been involved off and on, primarily on with them for many years. I'm involved with them right now. And typically there will be a business guy or more of a general management guy. There'll be a marketing person, a finance person, a legal person. And the companies apply to the program. We work with them for 6 or 8 weeks. We mentor and train them up so they can make their pitch to investors. That's what we do.
That's cool.
But back to Bill Walton. Can I tell you a short Bill Walton story?
Please.
So I was the kid in the bleachers when I went to Edison High School that we took the bus up and watched UCLA practice back in 1975, 76. And I met Bill a few times. And so I was telling him that story. I was one of the kids watching you practice. Here's one of the greatest basketball players of all time at any level. And he said, how's your body? And I said, I got a bum knee. I have to have knee replacement surgery and stuff. He said, well, call me after your replacement surgery. I want to talk to you about your recovery. I thought he was kidding.
Huh, yeah.
His assistant gave me his information. So I didn't call him. I sent him a text and I said, Bill, I'm doing fine. He called me and spoke with me for 90 minutes on the proper way to rehab my knee.
Wow.
And then, Bob Reef then told me afterwards that every Sunday morning, he would take a couple hours and call people around the country that were recovering from surgery or that had some personal problems and stuff. That was his way of. That's who Bill Walton was. Beyond being one of the top 50 broadcasters all time in the Hall of Fame and one of the top 75 all NBA players all time, he was really, really giving person. So his legacy remains with San Diego Sports Institute, and as long as they want me, I'll be hanging around helping those guys out.
That's cool. What do you get what is it that you get from mentoring? I mean, that might seem like an obvious question, but just tell me a little bit about what are the benefits of being a mentor, helping others?
As I've matured, my standards have risen a little bit in this sense. It's that you have to be coachable and you have to be willing to listen.
Okay.
Because our volunteers, we have better things to do. So
Sure.
most of the requirements to getting in the program is whether you're going to be coachable or not. And so most of the time the entrepreneur is, and most of the time we give him or her some pretty decent advice. And what's most gratifying is when they follow it and they have some success, or when they were going to do something but they didn't, and you knew if they did that was going to be tragic. So that it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And they're all really grateful for their help.
That's cool. Well, you've mentioned, colleges a few times. You went to Cal State Fullerton. You went through that program at UCLA, so you're a fellow UC alum. But overall, and besides the degrees that you got and the certificates with the degrees, how important was your college experience to you in your career? Did it play an important role? And I ask because just for young people today, I mean, you've got adult kids. What was your advice? What is your advice now to people who are like, yeah, I don't know about college, maybe not. Do you think it's worth it? What are your thoughts?
Well, it was a different time.
Yeah.
And you pretty much sort of felt like if you didn't have a degree, you couldn't progress in your career.
Right.
So, that was the whole generation of motivation for myself and my children, my grown children as well. I think it's a time to mature. It's a time to be with your friends. You have the rest of your life to work.
Yeah.
So that part of it is good. What I struggle with is the cost, because it's become unbearably expensive.
Yeah.
And I see young people taking all this debt on. So I would say, Derek, I would have given you a different answer 5 years ago, but I'm not entirely sure now. I'm just not. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do and what you want to be. Obviously, when you be a doctor, you need to go to college. When you're a lawyer, you got to go to college. When you be an engineer, you have to go to college, right?
Yep.
If you want to be a writer or you want to be a designer, you have to have some skills in that regard. But do you need a 4-year degree? I'm not sure. I'm just not sure.
Yeah.
People ask me about some of my clients now. Say, hey, there's a course in AI. Should I take that? Or this other course in management skills. You see the major schools, Stanford and MIT, they do these courses. I said, if you want to do it for yourself. Don't do it because you want to put it on the resume, because nobody really cares, right? I mean, they care to the extent, but what it's going to show is you're trying to improve yourself, and it's not going to be inexpensive. So if you want to do it, make sure you take something, but do it for yourself, not for your resume. And I mean, I have some executives now that they're in transition and they're taking AI courses, and I think they should. I think they
Yeah.
should learn as much as they can, but not so you can put it on a piece of paper, just so you can understand how it's going to potentially affect your next role in business.
Yeah, just so you have more tools in your tool belt, basically, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of tools, then, for individuals that are maybe just graduating from school, that are looking to get into the workplace, or maybe they're already in the workplace, but I guess, what skills do you think they need to have? What do you want them to know based on, what you've gone through, what you've built? Those soft skills, what are the ones that impress you, or the ones that you see in young people today that you wish they had more of?
Well, it's a great question. I had a coffee last week with a really, really bright young man who's going to graduate from Fullerton with a degree in finance in May.
Okay.
But he has no idea what he wants to do. Zero idea what he wants to do.
That's typical, right? Can be.
Yeah, I guess it's typical. But it gets back to what I said earlier. Folks can't help you unless you have an idea of what you want to do.
Yeah, okay.
So I said, write down 30 companies where you'd like to work, and I don't care if it's NASA or Tesla or Nike, or just try to help yourself get focused. Because people that you'll lean on for advice and or who may pick up the phone, make a phone call to get you an interview, you got to kind of understand what it is you want to do. And this particular young man said, I want to be in sales. I said, that's great. And a degree in finance and sales is great. What industry? I'm not sure. Figure it out.
Pick one.
Consumer products.
Yeah.
You want to sell software? Figure it out. So I mean, that's the challenge, I think, for young people. Build a network. Pick up the telephone and call somebody. It's
Yes.
old school. No one ever does it anymore. But if I get a phone call, and I understand that different communication dynamics and so forth have changed. But I tell all of my clients, if you're interviewing for a job, yeah, of course, write a note, pick up the phone and call and thank them for the interview. Because nobody does. And it just shows just a little extra effort on your part. So
I wonder what you're saying is really hitting home for me, because I know there are so many people in the workplace right now with really good resumes, qualified people that are struggling to get jobs. And you're talking about the network, picking up the phone. We talked earlier about, people sort of recognizing you and saying, hey, you're good for this job. I wonder if we have reached this peak moment where it is about the personal connection, and you're not going to be able to, like, your resume, you can build your resume, but until you are starting to call somebody or make that connection, your next job is going to come from somebody you know, probably, or somebody that one of your connections knows, right? Is that what
100%.
Yeah.
The guy in front of you in Starbucks, it gets back to the elevator pitch. He might turn to you and say, what do you do, Derek? And you might say, this is what I do, or this is what I'm looking for. And he goes, hey, my brother's in that. But you just never know.
You never know.
Be prepared. But I have found most of the time that it's some network connection. It's somehow, some way, some network connection. So I advise my clients, have coffees, see if you can drop by their office. It's okay. There's no pressure, but and your calling card is, if you hear of anything along my journey, this is where I want to head. And I have found that most people want to help you. They will want to help you.
Yeah.
And, but it's network. Build a small little board of directors. Your uncle's a lawyer, whomever that is, and ask them, for some advice or some help, or tell them you're moving in this direction and get their opinion. I also tell people in positions of influence that you may be acquainted with. I'm not your best friends, but you may be acquainted with. You may have met the VP of production through somebody. When you're looking, you get 2 phone calls. One is, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. I would really appreciate if you kept me in mind. Great. The second one is, there's an opening at your company. Would you do me this great favor and present my resume to the hiring manager? You don't get 5 phone calls. You get 2.
2.
One is, let them know what you're doing. And second, call in the favor. So just navigating those kind of things are really important. And I very rarely find where people aren't responsive or don't want to help.
Yeah.
Throw in a favor kind of a thing.
Yeah, that's good advice. Well, Steve, if you look back for you, if you look back through it all, you scan the professional decisions that you've made, the ups and downs, what were some of the biggest lessons that you've learned from it all? And then I'm going to turn around and ask you, what have you learned about yourself through that? So lessons learned, and then what did you learn about yourself?
Wow, that's, I guess maybe when things are going good, really good, be grateful and humble.
Okay, yeah.
When you got a difficult decision to make, the sooner you make it, the better it is for all involved.
Mm,
And I think, there have been some times when, for one reason or other, the person was not the right person in that job.
yeah.
And it's hard. And every time you lay somebody off, it should be painful. It should never be easy. But I probably waited a little too long in some cases. And I think that was an issue of maturity. But I had some folks around me once in a while that would tap me on the shoulder and say, we've waited long enough for you to make this move. It's time to make the move. And I needed that. I needed that, and then I have had to do that occasionally with folks that worked for me. I said, look, I know you're trying to do the right thing for all concerned here, but it's time to make the move.
Yeah.
But Derek, that probably comes with maturity. It just probably does.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be quicker to make those decisions in a position of leadership today than I was at that time. Surround yourself with the best and smartest people. Don't be afraid they're going to take your job. I was never afraid of that. And progression may not be there in as quick a time as everybody wants, but I never sort of worried about that. Things kind of work themselves out. I try to give people, enough latitude to do their position and to shine in their own roles. And I guess I'm proud of that.
Is there something that you've kind of discovered about yourself through it all, in terms of you mentioned that you waited too long, that we've matured, but I don't know, is there a way to extract sort of what have you learned about yourself personally as you've gone through it all?
Well, I can tell you that I used to be a very competitive person, maybe not overtly, but internally. Mm-hmm. And as I've matured in age, sort of my competitive give a damn is kind of busted, and maybe that comes with maturity.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not really sure. And it's not so much in business, it's also in my personal life and my golfing life and all those things. I don't know. I think you just reach a station in life where it's not that important to me to be first or to win, And maybe again, I've been lucky. I've done well in certain areas, and I'm okay. But I do enjoy others' success, and that gets back to the consulting. I really enjoy watching others have success.
Yeah.
But,
well, let's start to wrap this up, Steve. I'd like to kind of get to this point then where we, based on all the things you've said, you've already kind of put some great advice together. But if we kind of had to put together a summary, 3 things that you wanted people to remember who are building their careers, they're looking at yours, going, "Wow, that's a career I would love to have." What are 3 things that you really want people to know and remember and adhere to?
well, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So let's just remember that. The folks that you see in positions of leadership typically are hard work, dedicated people that have put in the time. So let's remember that. Continually network. This is the hardest thing people forget because they're in their job, they're focused on their job, and there's walls around them, but you have to keep those network lines open, especially in these times.
Yeah.
So continue to network, continue to have those coffees, make time for yourself to do that, because you just don't know. Somebody can knock on your door, your job can end for reasons totally out of your control. So just, I would say, work hard and continue to network and continue to try to improve yourself. Especially in this day and age, things are changing so rapidly. So rapidly, I mean, and, ambition is good if it's controlled and it's mutually understandable. It's a good thing. But I've had so many people, they're on the job for 3 weeks and come in and say, I want to be a vice president now. That's not how the world works.
You're like, whoa, hang on.
Not how the world works.
Yeah.
And then lastly, decisions are made by those that show up. And sometimes it's physical and a lot of times it's mental, but decisions are made by those that show up. So showing up means staying on top of your business. I also tell my clients, it's really important. You need to understand how your business, and you'd be shocked. I'd say, well, how's business there? And they go, I'm not really sure. Well, you need to know, because decisions are being made by leadership and charge. Much of it is the condition of your business. And in private concerns, those numbers are not always shared, but you can always ask your boss, are we on plan? Can you share with me we're on plan?
Yeah.
And they will share that with you. They may not share the numbers, especially in small private businesses, but as an employee, as a staff member, even as a contractor, it's okay to say, hey, can you guys let me know, are we on plan? And to the extent that they'll be honest with you, if you're off plan and they're laying people off, it's not the time to ask for a raise.
Right.
It's not the time to take a 3-week vacation. I mean, sometimes I have to tell people this, decisions are made by those that show up. So
That's a good line, a good one to remember. You mentioned networking, and sometimes people sort of cringe at the idea of networking. I don't know why. I think I came to appreciate it later in my career too. But I think, do you have some tips on what good networking is? What does it entail? What does networking mean to you? You mentioned coffee.
As much as it can be physically in person, it's not that. It's just have coffee before work,
Yeah.
But also join organizations within your world, within your realm. I mean, SEMA comes to mind, but there are plenty of organizations you can join. There's church organizations, there's clubs, those kinds of things. All of that is a way to network.
Yeah.
I think many of us got lost in thinking that our company was who we are.
Yeah. It was like your team, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, as much as I'm grateful for Quiksilver in my life, it's not who I am. I just happen to work there. Who you are is people in your network know and love you. They'd be outside your business, outside your industry, but they're important to your own self-worth and self-being. People care about you, but you got to expand that network, and you can figure it out. Bowling teams, dart teams, you'll figure it. Church leagues and stuff. You keep a network going in your industry, outside your industry. You just never know where change is going to come from.
Yeah, it's just a matter of just mingle and stay connected with people because you never know. All right, well, last couple things here. I guess anything on the horizon that you're excited about? Anything we should keep an eye out for that you might be doing? Anything going to drop in the Steve Tully world that we need to know about?
There's exciting things going on at Laguna College of Art and Design.
Yeah, okay.
And I think you'll look for you just broke ground on a new creative space down there. I think they were fortunate to have an anonymous endowment, a significant anonymous endowment.
Nice.
And that institution is a creative feeder into our world. I mean, it's a feeder into the gaming world, automotive design world, technology world, but in the action sports world, there's a lot of design talent that comes from there. I'm really happy to be involved with that and maybe getting a little more involved there.
Nice.
SDSI, I'm sort of back into that thing, into that experience. And I had to take a break time to time because of my work schedule. But yeah. And cool. To the extent that people need my help, I'll be around to help in our world.
All right. Well, we'll leave the link to your site here in the notes. We'll make sure people know where to get a hold of you if they need some help. But Steve, I give this last minute here to you. It's an open mic session where the mic is yours for anything you want to cover, whether it's shout outs, call outs, recommendations, apologies, shameless plugs, etc. The mic is yours to close this out with, so take it away.
Well, Derek, look, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I mean, I've only done a couple of these before, and I'm really impressed with you and your prep. I'm glad to get to know you a little bit through this. I mean, that's really it. And anything I can do to help you along the way in your journey, you make sure you reach out to me. I'm grateful for Vite for thinking of me.
Yeah.
And there'd be too many people to thank for my journey along the way, but certainly Bob McKnight would be one that that's where the spark really got started in my career for all those years, and I'm really, really pleased and lucky to say that we're still close. We're still friends. I see him on a weekly basis, and may not have ended the way we all scripted it to end, but if I had to say, I mean, there's many people, but Bob would be the one that I'd be most grateful for. So.
Oh, that's really nice. Well, thanks for including me in that. This has been a great honor too, Steve. It's been really nice to meet you, and I for sure am going to tap back into you because I know you got some great advice that you can offer, and I could probably use some of it as I navigate through my career as well. So we'll be in touch. And
I'm happy to help, pal.
I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, Steve. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. If you like what you heard, be sure to check back weekly, subscribe to the show, and if you want to be featured on the show, come hit us up at theunderswell.com. We'd love to hear from you.